Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me. This is my second day sharing the passages that are most prominent to me and my synthesis of the focus topics in book number 32 of my Book a Week series, Adyashanti's Falling into Grace. The contemplative curriculum emphasizes that healing, peace, equanimity can be found in silence, stillness, emptiness, nothingness. Something that I've noticed is that these terms are often related to by us with a negative quality. At the very least, they are discounted as not holding a substantive value. What we find when we spend time exploring is that nothingness and emptiness are more of a womb, a vastness beyond our screen of experience, where the alchemy of creation originates. When we are able to open ourselves up to this space, this emptiness, we may be cocooned in a comfort beyond thought form, beyond anything that would be relevant to description in word form, that can change the way we view all of the elements of the human condition that we relate to as being less optimal. Once we open this space, we may see its infinite abundance. We may see that we can reside there, open residence there, while participating in the human experience. It shifts our perspective such that while we are participating in human form and experiencing the many notes that human form involves, good and bad alike, that there is a quality that is beyond good and bad, from which we are able to source our energy, our resilience, our joy. Energized by this space, I do not say that I don't feel pain anymore, that I don't feel frustration, distraction, annoyance, anger anymore. What I say, rather, is that I'm not so bothered anymore by feeling those things. I no longer identify with the many sensations that are involved with the human form. Even the semantic structure of the way that I express myself when I'm feeling things has adapted a little bit. For instance, rather than saying I am sad or I am angry, I notice that I'm often saying something like I feel sadness emerging in my system, or there is anger running through me right now. When we resist the sensations in human form that are not optimal, we experience a physiological constriction. I've referenced this many times before. I often feel it in my chest, in my breath and diaphragm. Many feel it in their throat or connected to their language centers, in their capacity to speak and connect to a regulation of inhalation and exhalation while speaking. Many feel it between the eyes or in a heaviness somewhere in their system, or maybe in their tummy or their backs. This constriction obviously also constricts the way that we're able to maneuver in response to what we're feeling. We can cue ourselves to open, to expand. If we can offer value to what might be available in spaciousness, the cocooning nature of that magic nothingness that we so discount, open, expand our physiology beyond our human form, beyond our bodies, such that we may see a broader perspective, such that even if we're not able to see a broader perspective at the time, we are able to connect that perhaps there is one. I'm looping this around to my first reading for the day on page 116. Any way that we make a construct out of life, any way that we come to conclusions in our mind about what is or what was or what will be, we are narrowing our experience of life. There are all ways in which we argue with what is. Anytime you argue with what was, what is, or what will be, you limit your ability to experience the vastness of who you are. There's no way around it. It doesn't matter what happened, or how cruel someone was, or how unfair something was. It may have been all of those things, and the pain may be very deep and real. But when we have a mental resistance, when we say something should or should not have happened, we're arguing with what did happen or what is happening. And when we argue with life, we lose every single time, and suffering wins. Without further ado, I'll move on toward today's readings. Enjoy.
Page 71. There's really nothing to learn here. Awakening is actually a process of unlearning. The important thing is where we're acting from, where we're relating from. When we relate from our true spiritual essence, then the quality of our relating is transformed. And then what we say to each other carries a whole different feel to it. It is then that we become expressions of peace rather than expressions of the insanity of a divided world. This revelation begins with the recognition that you are not your mind, and you are not your ego or your personality. In fact, you are something much, much vaster. We assume that what we're seeking isn't already present. Of course, that's why we're seeking it, because we believe that peace and happiness and freedom aren't here, right where we are right now already. The assumption that what we're seeking, some state of completion, isn't here right now, is what causes us to look for it, to start the search. Page 91. What would happen if for a moment we stopped and didn't play any part? If we allowed ourselves to be unborn and to touch upon who and what we were before we took form, before we appeared to be someone distinct and different? If you stop in this place of not knowing who you are, if you resist the temptation to conceptualize an identity, you'll begin to touch a lived sense of an inner presence. You'll open to what I call an alive, pregnant nothingness. This is not a nothingness that is blank or absent of any qualities, but rather one that is extraordinarily vital and rich with potential. Here, we can enter a mysterious dimension that is not accessible through our normal routes of thinking and understanding. We can see clearly that what we are isn't something we can think about. We can only think about what we're not. What we are in reality is alive, awake, and conscious, existing as pure potential. Page 95. We're taught and we're conditioned that God is only the good stuff, that God or spirit or whatever you call it is a good guy. And all the painful stuff comes from some other source called the devil or evil or samsara. But really, that's just splitting the world up into bits. That's a childish way to understand the divine. If we really want to be awake, if we want to allow suffering to end, we have to open up our very idea of what God is, what spirit is. We have to realize that spirit is an infinite potential that includes everything. And all of our lives are proof that our spiritual nature contains everything at once, that we can become clear or confused, that we can act loving or cruel. How we act and feel depends on how awake we are and how much we experience that silence, that peace within. Page 123. Letting things simply be as they are is not something that we're taught. In many ways, we're taught to be in a constant state of friction with, to be in battle with what is. We're taught that the way to find happiness or peace is to always be trying to change what is, whether it's changing your inner experience or trying to change the world around you. When we operate from this viewpoint, it puts us in a sense of future, where real freedom or real peace can be found in some time other than now. This leads to our deep-rooted belief that to find peace and freedom, we need to change our inner or outer environment. This will be the last passage that I'll share today, and I'm on page 126. Open-mindedness doesn't mean that you're just opening to the good parts of life. It means you're opening to everything. And this is when you start to discover a type of inner stillness, an inner stability, that vast, unchanging expanse that is at the heart of everything. I'm skipping down here. Essentially, we fall into grace. By that, I mean that a certain mysterious quality reveals itself and cradles us within an intimacy with all of existence. This is something that many people are looking for without even knowing it. Almost everybody is looking for intimacy, a closeness, a sense of union with their own existence or with God, or whatever their concept of higher reality is. All this yearning actually comes from our longing for closeness, intimacy, and true union